I want to talk about fine arts and economics, and it seems to me that you probably agree with this. The major mechanisms or the sort of pathway is either sort of become a famous artist, this kind of grandiosity, which of course, by its very definition, very few artists can actually achieve. That's one option. Two is kind of the selling out version, where you either do work for advertising agencies or whatever your medium is, just for business concerns, or you create art that you know or you hope will be successful, not really true to what you want to do as an artist. Or the third path is just to become a teacher, which is, again, same model discrepancy that the fame model has, which is that if there's one teacher for every 5 or 10 or 20 students, you can't, obviously, unless the population is growing, the number of artists is growing, have enough people be able to become artists. And you see this elevation right now in terms of academic credentials in the United States, where you need to have a PhD and have shown in galleries for many years in order to qualify to teach. And so it's not a really realistic model overall. And so what most artists do, because they're not business people, is they just shrug their shoulders and throw up their hands, and then a lot of them, I think, end up not becoming artists or not devoting a lot of time to their art after they graduate and doing something else. And even when I've spoken to people about this, they want to avoid the subject entirely. But I think it's an important subject. Now, here in Europe, the model has often been state-supported arts, and that's going away, so it's going to be very much, I think, like the United States, and so that's not a realistic model. It brings up deeper issues in terms of how do capitalists deal with this issue. If you have a product which is not in high enough demand to support the professionals who work in that field, usually the business fades. Now, I'm not saying that art has to fade, but then we have to start thinking differently. So one idea which I don't endorse is the mutual fund model, which you have 100 artists and they're all putting an equal number of amount of work creating art and publicizing the art, and it's all tracked online. And then if one of those 100 artists actually makes money, those dividends are shared amongst all the artists. Very few artists would agree to this. Inherently becoming an artist, I think, is an appetite for risk and a belief in your own grandiosity. So, and then for administrative reasons also, and fairness reasons, it's not necessarily possible to work. If you look at election campaign finance reform, only very rich people can run for office, similar to the idea of only artists or people who have trust funds or supported by their families. And so with campaign finance reform, then the government, or rather the taxpayers, share the burden. And so, should artists form a political action committee and try to put through legislation that supports the arts? That's another idea, and I've seen some and helped out a little bit with that kind of work in New York, but it really, I don't think, got anywhere. There's been some talk about using time banking and currency and giving art one greater value in currency is equal to food or other services. That's a way of jury-rigging the system. It's possible. It's kind of complicated, so artists aren't exactly drawn to it, and a lot of people have resistance to alternative currencies, and so that's problematic. So I don't have a great answer, but I thought this is a good way to sort of lay out what the issues are, is if we want to escape this paradigm of fame or teacher, which is limiting in terms of the numbers, if we don't want to leave ourselves sort of victims of capitalism, because capitalism is not valuing this stuff, otherwise artists would get paid a lot of money and there'd be a larger demand. Then I think we need to have some out-of-the-box kind of thinking. It's more complicated for those in interactive arts because the technology is constantly changing, and it's getting cheaper and cheaper, and technology can get outsourced. And so the fundamental value for an artist is not necessarily to know the tools, but to be maybe more like a systems integrator, or be an idea person, or be a marketing person, or being a team builder, along those lines. And you've seen that happen in fine arts, other fine arts as well, in terms of artists who aren't actually creating their own work, like Kostabi and Damien Hirst, who have other artists create it, and they're more of the front person, the personality. And so really their role is more of being sort of a personality. But again, that's the fame model, which is not pragmatic. So I feel like there's a way out of this, and perhaps it's something that's worth discussing. Thanks.